This video is on harder percentages, so all of the higher tier percentages. Most of this revolves around you understanding and being able to use a decimal multiplier. And most of these harder percentages, they would normally come up on a calculator paper. So if you were wanting to find 24% of something, 24% means 24 out of 100, or 24 divided by 100. And 24 divided by 100 would be 0.24. So if you were wanting to find 24% of something, you could just multiply by 0.24. Doesn't matter what the number is, whether it's an amount of money or a number of people or whatever. If you want to find 24%, you could times it by 0.24. If you were wanting to find 8%, you could times by 0.08, because that's what 8% is as a decimal. 8% means 8 out of 100. 8 divided by 100 gets you 0.08. If you were wanting to find 4.3%, that would be 0.043, because that's what 4.3 divided by 100 is. So it's called a decimal multiplier because it's a decimal number and you multiply by it. Okay, using these same percentages then, it's handy for you to be able to use the decimal multiplier if you're going up or down by a percentage. So to find 24%, you multiply by 0.24. To go up by 24%, you times by 1.24. And that's because at the start, it would be worth 100%. And you going up by 24% would be you adding 24% onto it, which would make it 124%. And for you to find 124% of something, you could change the percentage into a decimal by dividing by 100, which would make it 1.24. So your decimal multiplier for going up by 24% would be times by 1.24. Then if you were going down by 24%, instead of 100% plus 24%, it would be 100% take away 24%, which would leave you with 76%. And then 76% as a decimal is 0.76. So if you're going up, add it on to 100. If you're going down, take it off 100 and then actually change it from a percentage into a decimal. The next one then, if you're finding 8%, that was 0.08 that you multiply by. If you're going up by 8%, you would do 100% plus 8% gets you 108%. And then 108% as a decimal would be 1.08. If you're going down 8%, you do 100%, down 8% is the same as you find 92%, and then 92% as a decimal is 0.92, so that would be your decimal multiplier for down 8%. The last one then, finding 4.3%, that was 0.043. that you would be timesing by. Try not to get it mixed up with 0.43. 0.43 would be 43%, so you need a naught in there to make it 4.3 rather than 43%. If you're going up 4.3%, you would do 100%. Up 4.3% is 104.3%. And then to make it into a decimal, put the decimal point back 2 places or divide by 100, and that would turn it into 1.043 for your decimal multiplier. Down 4.3%, you would do 100, take away 4.3%, and for ones like this, since most of the time for these you would be allowed a calculator, if you can't do 100 take away 4.3 in your head, use your calculator. So 100 take away 4.3 gets you 95.7, so 95.7%. And then you can even turn this into a decimal on your calculator if you want. Divide it by 100 to get it as a decimal multiplier. So, I've written up there. Alright, that should be down by 4.3%. So that's okay. It would be timesing by 0.957. I just had the question written wrong there. Okay, these questions down at the bottom then. I'm just going to use a calculator for all of these because that's the only time that you would really use your decimal multiplier. So without a calculator, if you were finding 7%, you would have to find 1% first and then times it by 7. So with a calculator, you write down the amount of money that you're dealing with, the £130, and then for you to find 7%, change it into a decimal multiplier. So 7% would be 0.07, and then do 130 multiplied by 0.07, gets you 9.1, so that would be £9.10. So times them by 0.07 just finds you 7%. Then the next one, we're wanting to increase £130 by 7%. So £130 multiplied by, and the 7% increase would be 100 plus 7, which would be 107, which would be 1.07 that you would multiply by. So 130 multiplied by 1.07 gets you 139.1, which is £139.10. Then decrease by 7%. So £130 again, and this time for you to decrease by 7, you do 100 take away 7 is 93, and then turn that into a decimal, so that would be 0.93. So £130 times by 0.93 gets you 120.9, which is £120.90. Okay, you could stick to the old method of finding 7% and then adding it on, finding 7% and then taking it off, but you'll see for questions later on in this video that it is very, very useful if you're able to use a decimal multiplier. Okay, the next few questions then. Find 82% of 3,000 people. So you would write down the 3,000 people first, and then to find 82%, 82% means 82 divided by 100, which would be 0.82. So do 3,000 multiplied by 0.82. Oh, I did 300 there, so 3,000 multiplied by 0.82 gets you 2,460. Then increase 3,000 people by 82%. So start with the 3,000 again. Increase by 82. You do 100 plus 82 is 182, and then that would be 1.82 as a decimal multiplier. So 3,000 times by 1.82 gets you 5,460. And then if you were decreasing 3,000 by 82%, you would have your 3,000 multiplied by, and then decrease means 100 take away 82, which gets you 18. So you would do 3,000 multiplied by 0.18 gets you 540. Okay, if you don't like this whole going up and down, you could actually just use your first answer. So find 82% by times and by 0.82, and then to increase, you could do 3,000 plus that 2,460 to get you the 5,460. And to decrease, you could do the 3,000 take away the 2,460 to get you the 540. But it's handy if you're able to do it all in one go. So times them by 1.82, finds 82% and adds it on all in one go. And 0.18 finds the 82% and takes it off all in one go. Okay, continuing using the decimal multiplier then. These few questions are, I've just called them repeat percentages. So instead of you just finding 1%, you're maybe wanting to find one and then another one straight after that. So a factory makes 2,000 packets of crisps each day. 30% of these are salt and vinegar, and then 8% of the salt and vinegar are low fat. How many packets of low fat salt and vinegar crisps are made each day? So first of all, you would need to find how many are salt and vinegar. So you're wanting to find 30%. So 30% as a decimal would be 0.30 or 0.30. So you would do 2,000 times by 0.30. You don't really need that naught in there at the end. Gets you 600. So that's how many are salt and vinegar. And then it says 8% of these salt and vinegar are low fat. So you would then need to take your 600 and find 8% of that. And 8% as a decimal is 0.08. So keep the 600 in your calculator, times by 0.08, and that will find you 8% of that. So that works out as 48 are low fat and salt and vinegar. Okay, so it's a whole lot quicker if you know how to use your decimal multiplier. There's less working out. Again, you would be able to do that one actually without a calculator, but if you're allowed a calculator, I would advise you to use the decimal multiplier. The next one then, in a town of 28,400 people, 97% of the population has internet access, and then 68% of those with internet access have got fibre optic broadband. Work out how many people in the town have fibre optic broadband. So you need to find 97% of the population first, because that's how many actually have internet. So to find 97%, I would times by 0.97. So 28400 times by 0.97 gets you 27548. So 27,548 people actually have the internet. And then you would need to take the 27,548 and we need to find 68% of those, because 68% of these people have also got fibre optic broadband. So times by 0.68 would find you 68%, so keep that in the calculator, times by 0.68. And that gets you 18732.64 people have fibre optic broadband. Because this is to do with the number of people, they might say for you to round it to the nearest whole person, in which case you would round that 2 at the end up to 3 because it's got the 6 after it. So 18,733 people have fibre optic broadband. Next one, Lisa bought a car for £20,000. It depreciated by 30% in the first year and then by 35% in the second year. What was it worth after 2 years? So that's you going down by 30% and then down again by 35%. So down by 30% at the start, then you would do 100 take away 30 is 70, and then times by 0.70. So that will find the 30% and take it off all in one go. So 20,000 times by 0.70 is 14,000. So that's how much the car is worth after the first year. So you start off with that then in the second year, and now we're wanting to put it down by 35%. So you do 100 take away 35 is 65. So that's the same as you find in 65%. So do 14,000 times by 0.65 gets you 9,100. So 9,100. Okay, so the first two questions, it was just find a percentage, find a percentage. This one was go down by a percentage, go down by a percentage. The last one then, Jake started a new job in March on £250 per week. So £250. After 3 months, he was given a pay rise of 24%. In October, all employees were given a 5% pay rise. What did Jake get paid in October? So after 3 months, he was given a pay rise of 24%. That's quite a big pay rise. I think that might have been 2.4%, but I'll just stick with the question that's there and leave it as 24%. So for it to go up by 24%, you do 100 plus 24 is 1.24. So do 250 times by 1.24, and that will find the 24% and add it on. So that's £310 per week. And then after that, everybody's given a pay rise of 5%. So you would take the £310, put it up by 5%, you do 100 plus 5 is 105, turn it into a decimal, times it by 1.05, gets you 325.5, which is £325.50. So I just noticed there that this question was go down, and this one was go up, go up. There's no reason why they couldn't give you a question where you go up and then down, or down and then up. It's just the way those last two questions happen to work. Okay, that's repeat percentages then, or successive percentage change sometimes it's called. These next few questions are on compound interest, and I've said powers there. You will see why in a wee minute. So compound interest is the kind of interest where it keeps going up and up and up, year by year by year, building up on what you've got in the bank. So Tom invests £500 for 3 years at 4% compound interest. So he puts in the £500 and it goes, for 3 years, it goes up by 4%. What is the total investment worth after 6 years? So after 1 year, it will go up by 4%. So to go up by 4%, you do 100 plus 4 is 104, and then turn that into a decimal multiplier would be 1.04. So that would get you the amount after 1 year. But just realised it says 3 there and then 6. I think it was supposed to say 6. Should have really checked these questions before I started making the video. So that would be how you would find the amount in the bank after just 1 year. So for 6 years, you don't just times it by 6, you do it to the power of 6. And then that way it'll make sure that it goes up by 1.04, gets a new amount. Then up by 1.04, and then gets the new amount. So it'll keep putting it up by 4% and adding it on year by year by year. So to type that into your calculator then, you would do 500 times 1.04, and then your power of button, and then 6. So that puts £500 up by 4% 6 times, or over 6 years. So that's how much is in the bank then, £632, and then that's 65, because of the 9 will go up to 66. So 632.66. So 632.66. Okay, be careful with this. 6 years, you don't just times by 6 at the end. That would actually be more like simple interest. It actually wouldn't even be simple interest, but make sure that you definitely put it as a power. Okay, in 2006, the population of a town was 68,000. It is predicted the population will increase by 1.2% each year until 2010. Work out the predicted population in 2010 and give your answer to the nearest 100. So we're wanting to go from 2006 up to 2010. So that's 4 years that it's going up by 1.2%. So first of all, up by 1.2%, you do 100 plus 1.2 gets you 101.2, which would be 1.012, not 1.12, because that would put it up by 12%. So up by 1.2% would be that number. And from 2006 to 2010 is 4 years. So you're wanting to put it up by 1.2% 4 times. So put it with a power of 4. So this question, it's not about having money in the bank. So it's not exactly to do with compound interest, but it's the same kind of idea. You're wanting to put it up by a certain percentage year by year by year. So that's why it said that this was to do with powers or else compound interest. So type that into the calculator then. So 68,000 times by 1.012 to the power of 4 equals 71,323, and then goes 0.22, and it said give your answer to the nearest 100. So the nearest 100, I would need to sort that bit out there. So that would be 71,300 people. Okay, another question then. Leaking 500 litre water tank loses 36% of its contents each day. Isabel says the tank will only have 130 litres left by the end of the 3rd day. Is Isabel correct? Show your working out. So 500 litres, and it loses 36%. So down 36, 100 take away 36 is 64. So times by 0.64 would put it down by 36. And this is going on for 3 days, so you would put it to the power of 3. So 500 times by 0.64 to the power of 3, or I could have used the cube button there, gets me 131.072 litres. And Isabel said that there would only be 130 litres left by the end of the 3rd day. Is she correct? No, she is not correct. There is more than 130 litres. Okay, the next bit of percentages I want to look at then, I just call it reverse percentages, because you are being given the answer and you're wanting to go in reverse sort of to find out what the question was. So a jumper costs £42 in a 20% off sale. What was the price before the sale? So I call it reverse percentages because the sale has already happened. This is the price with the 20% off, and you're wanting to go back and work out what it was before the sale. So what you don't do is go, oh, with 20% off, so I'm wanting to add 20% on. so I multiplied by 1.20. That's not right, because 20% of this sale price will be worth less than 20% of the original price, so you can't do it like that. You have to write it down as if you were actually taking the 20% off and see what that decimal multiplier is. So this is the original amount, and it's going down by 20% in the sale, and it's working out at £42 then. So for you to go down by 20%, you would do 100 take away 20 is 80. So it has been timesed by 0.80 to get you the £42. So for you to work out what number times by 0.80 gets you £42, you're just going in reverse. And going in reverse means that you would take the £42 and instead of timesing by 0.80, you do the reverse, which would be dividing by 0.80. So 42 divided by 0.80 gets you £52.50 was the original price. Okay, so you need to be really, really careful with these reverse percentages. So look for a clue in the question, things like what was the price before the sale, what was the initial amount, that sort of thing. So you write it down as if you were going forward. So 20% off is 0.80, and then you divide by 0.80 instead of timesing by it. The next one, a puppy weighs 16.5 kilograms, and this is a 70% increase from when it was born. How much did it weigh when it was born? So this is the weight whenever it was born, and it has been increased by 70%, and now it weighs 16.5 kilograms. So I think it's easier if you take the sentence and write down what's happened. So this is the weight whenever it was born, up by 70%, and now it's working out as 16.5. So for you to go up by 70%, you would times by 100 plus 70 is 170, which is 1.70. So multiplying by 1.70 gets you this weight. So for you to go in reverse and find the original weight whenever it was born, you take the 16.5 and divide by 1.70. So do 16.5 divide by 1.70 gets you 9.705. It goes on a wee bit. So maybe round it just to 9.7 kilograms then to one decimal place. So again with this one, you don't do 70% increase, I want the reverse of that, I do a 70% decrease, so I times by 0.30. And the reason that won't work is because of the percentage of the original weight won't be the same, or won't be worth the same as the percentage of the new weight. Okay, so I would write it down like that. Next one, this year a club has 375 members, and this is 8% less than last year. How many members did the club have last year? So this is the original amount of members in the club, and then down by 8% is working out at 375 members. So we need to know what amount of members. Down 8% gets you 375. So down 8%, you do 100 take away 8 is 92. So that has been multiplied by 0.92 to get 375. And then you're going in reverse. So you take the 375 and divide by 0.92. So you divide by your decimal multiplier. So 8% less, 100 take away 8 is 92, and then instead of timesing by 0.92, you divide by 0.92. So 375 divide by 0.92 gets you 407.61, but because this is to do with people and these are members, you might want to round that to 408, round it to the nearest whole member. The last one then, Jim paid £8,619 for a car. The price had increased by 2% from what it was the previous year. What was the price of the car the previous year? So this is the price of the car at the start. It's been increased by 2%, and we want to know what increased by 2% will get you that £8,619. So what amount of money, and then up 2%, 100 plus 2 is 100.02, or sorry, 102, which is 1.02. gets you 8,619. You're going in reverse, so instead of timesing by 1.02, you divide. So 8619 divide by 1.02. So 8619 divided by 1.02 gets you 8,450. So that was the original price of the car before it went up by 2%. Okay, that's the end of this video on harder percentages. So hopefully you see how important it is that you know how to use a decimal multiplier, because I used it in every single one of those questions.